Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. Today is one of those days when you sometimes encounter some extraordinary personality. Um, and why they are extraordinary is not because they have more than two hands and two legs. They're extraordinary because they achieve things extraordinary. Now, we all know that in the recent past, India and Hindus had a remarkable, I would say, victory in reclaiming the land called Ayodhya, Ram Janmabhoomi. This has been on the minds of Indians for a very long time. And I was in India when the whole Babri Masjid thing happened and how the entire thing emerged and India got a bad name. The whole politics and the jing-bang with that goes about it. I don't want to go back into that detail. But I'm going to talk about today with reference to Ayodhya, the city. Now the new Ram temple is being built and looks like it is going to be ready very soon by 2023. And there is a person here today in our studios talking with us about Ayodhya. She has written a book called Amazing Ayodhya. And she's a fabulous young lady. She spent 5 years researching to write about Ayodhya. It's a fascinating book. I read all of it, all pages of it. I bought it on Kindle and read it because I wanted to talk to her about it. So welcome, Mrs. Neena Rai. And the Miss Neena Rai, oh my goodness, Miss Neena Rai. She has written a fabulous book called Amazing Ayodhya. So congratulations for a great book. And I'm not saying this because I'm quoting some editorial or some commentary. I read it myself. And believe it or not, as a majority of us Hindus, we only believe that we know the stories. We know incidents. As a Hindu, we all think that we know Ramayana, we know Mahabharata, we know Gita. So, ek bar naam sun liya hai, that means I know everything. So, Neena ji, please share with us. Because I read the book, so I want to focus on the part, the amount of information that you have brought forth in the book. I did not know, and I'll confess, and I'm one of those people who has no hesitation in admitting that I didn't know something. So you have brought about significant information about the city. What was Ayodhya? Why is Ayodhya so required? And believe it or not, friends who are watching this show today, it is important for us to know why this place has such important significance for us as a religion, as people. So Neena ji, tell us more about the book. The jewelry, the city, the import of animals, the moats, the all 99 yards of it.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And I'm really happy that you read the book through and through. And I'm glad that you appreciate it because a tremendous amount of research has gone in writing the book. And this thing that you said, that we assume that we know Ayodhya just because we've heard the story is I think a problem with most Hindus. And I call it a problem is because they live on the level, we live on a level of superficiality, which we need to break and go forward. Mm-hmm. So this, in my generation, one of the things that I had noticed is that nobody questioned any other places of worship. And why I'm also saying that is because I used to travel with my father internationally. My father used to be a diplomat. I never saw any, angst or protest against any other religious site in the world. Whether it was the Vatican, whether it was Bethlehem, whether it was Makkah, whether it was Medina. I never saw any sort of a protest against there. But when it came to India, when it came to Hindu religious sites, Hindu temples, I noticed this, protest against our sites, against our religious places. I mean, Lord Ram is one of the greatest avatars of Hinduism. Krishna and Ram are the greatest men that we are supposed to emulate. And Lord Ram was born in Ayodhya. yet people spoke with a bit of disdain towards Ayodhya, and it surprised me. And I used to wonder, is this because of ignorance, or is this because of some other reason? And when the temple, I started researching that, and there were many other reasons why I started researching that. There were also things that I would hear from people about, why do we need a temple? Well, why do we need mosques, and why do we need churches? Do people even think before they speak? And this is a problem I found mostly with Hindu children and Hindus. I don't think that Muslims and Christians objected to they object to Hindu places of worship as much as Hindus were doing it themselves. And in the common in the current generation, one of the things that I would keep hearing is, oh, religion is not going to make you money. Well, I find it very surprising, because I really don't think that most of the people know the statistics on religious tourism. Then they would say things like, why do we need a temple? Why don't we make a school? Why don't we make a college? Why don't we make a library or a hospital? Yet at the same time, the same people who would make these comments, if I said, well, why don't you donate your home so I can make a library or a school or a college there? Would you do that? No. Then why would you take a place of religious importance to, let's say, me, or let's say if I'm a Vaishnav, if I am, if I have been raised as a devotee of Bhagwan Ram, why would you say that and offer that? So this lack of, and all of this stemmed from a simple fact, which I felt was ignorance. And that was ignorance about Ayodhya. That was ignorance about our own customs and traditions. That was ignorance about our own history. So I wrote this book, Amazing Ayodhya, to remove that ignorance. As a devotee, as a devotee, as a follower of Ram Bhagwan, as a bhakt of Ram and Sita, Lakshmi and other gods and goddesses, I felt that this was injustice to me and to my deity, that everybody else is allowed, but my deity is not allowed. And so I went on to discover more about Ayodhya, because we all know the story. So if you asked anybody, they knew the story. But if you ask people, and let me clarify why I'm saying this, is because Ayodhya is just not a city. It is just not a temple. It is bigger than a temple. It is bigger than a city. It is the root of our civilization. And many people do not understand that. And this and many people do not even understand why Hindus fought for more than 500 years to get their temple back, to reclaim the Ram Janambhumi, and why it is important for us. And so the book details all the things about Ayodhya, including who established Ayodhya.
Yes, you have talked about, and that was again a revelation. Friends who are watching this program, please do not consider that I'm trying to promote the book. I want you to know about the book. I want you to know about Ayodhya. Our programs are not designed to do a promo, a book promo. I'm here to, because this is something which touched my heart. Because I claim to know a lot about our Hindu philosophy. I have been championing our Hindu causes ever since I came to the country. You know about my statement that I became a better Hindu after coming to America. I became a better Indian and a better human because I began to study our own philosophies. You are aware of my thought process. So what I'm trying to share with you is Ram Mandir Ayodhya is in political debate, because it is a debate because people are calling us intolerant Hindus, because we have somewhere along the line, we have been unfair to Muslims, as if we have denied them a Babri Masjid. In reality, our civilization was being destroyed. As Neena ji very rightly pointed out, that it was Manu who established this entire thing. And I want you to share that information with the audience, because this is on YouTube and TV. It will be there for lifelong. So, folks, I downloaded the book on Kindle format, and I read it from my iPad. If you can, $9 is not an evil expense to make to know about your own history, your own tradition, why Ayodhya was important for us Hindus, and why was it important for us to win back that particular place, a town, a city that was ours. So that's the point which I, please go ahead, Ninaji, and tell us more about the establishment of that. And there is one thing which I'll tell you, because I'm very excited, as you can see, is I have always praised, इंडिया में पोस्टल एड्रेस होता है, मंदिर के पीछे, पोस्ट ऑफिस के आगे, सिनेमा के ऊपर, dispensary के नीचे. Of course, things have changed. But what I'm trying to say is that triggered in me to know that in the United States, anywhere you live, it's broken into squares and rectangles, right? 31, yeah, 27, this lane, that city, zip code. I was astonished to see the picture when you talked about the town planning of Ayodhya, that it was exactly that. And I told my son about it, that today I learned something, that Ayodhya had gave the blueprint of town planning, in which all the towns were divided into squares and rectangles. Go ahead, make your day and make everybody understand what you have done.
Okay, so I'm first going to give you a brief introduction about what the book contains. So the book is divided into 6 parts, and the first and the foremost part is the antiquity of Ayodhya. So this you can, anybody can see the contents. And the antiquity of Ayodhya answers who and when. So who established Ayodhya and when was Ayodhya established? The next part is about the location of Ayodhya. We think we know Ayodhya, but then there are lots of other details that we have, I have given, including about Ayodhya, its location, what is Kosil, and also speaking about Raja Dashrath, Maharaj Dashrath, and how powerful he was. We think that we know Dashrath, and it is not unless you read here that you will actually know how powerful they were. The third part of my book, Amazing Ayodhya, deals with the shapes, plans, and layouts, the exterior design of Ayodhya. So in this part, I cover why the word Ayodhya was given to Ayodhya. And let me tell you, it has nothing to do with spirituality. It has everything to do with strategy. And this is something that people do not understand and know. And then I go forward in talking about the designer details of Ayodhya, wherein I talk of the roadways, the buildings, and the shapes and structures of residences. And here is where the town planning, town layout, etc. is described. Then in the Valmiki Ramayana, there is a lovely mention of a very mysterious weapon called the Shatagni. Yes. Now, the Shatagni is one of the reasons why Ayodhya is called Ayodhya. And I tried to decipher this weapon, but with every epic, like let's say the Ramayana had a different, it just says that there were Shatagnis there. It doesn't go into describing it in detail, because it's like today saying, well, I called him on the phone. Well, which phone, what type, how did it work? It doesn't go into that detail. And so that was my research that I did. I've given the assumptions that I could make. And then the last part is about the animals in Ayodhya. Herein I give details about Chaturangi Sena, the Akshahini, the importing of animals. So here again I talk about the army and importing of animals, and the animals in the palaces of Ram and Sita, and Keke and Dashrath. And so it's, I have tried to give people a composite or a whole view of the glory of Ayodhya, and how astute and smart ancient Hindus were when it came to their town planning, when it came to establishment of cities, when it came to protection of cities, how smart and how talented they were. So if you read the book, your heart will swell with pride when it comes to town planning, organization, the animals, everything. And so you asked me the question about the antiquity of Ayodhya. So in the Valmiki Ramayana, we are told something very clearly, and that is Ayodhya Nam Nagri Tatra Asit Lok Vishruta Manuna Manav Indren Ya Puri Nirmata Swayam. So Ayodhya Nam Nagri Tatra Asit Lok Vishruta. This means that there is, there is a Nagri by the name of Ayodhya, which is world famous. So Ayodhya is not only famous for India, but Ayodhya is world famous. Everybody in the world knows Ayodhya. And why do they know Ayodhya? They know Ayodhya because the first man on earth after the deluge, Manu, is the person who established Ayodhya. Ayodhya is as old as humankind itself. It's as old as mankind itself. And why I'm saying mankind is because the word Manu, the word man is a derivative of the word man is derived from the Sanskrit word manu or manav. Now, who are manav? So Homo sapiens are manav. You and I, what we call ourselves today, the Homo sapiens, we are manav because in Sanskrit, any time that there is, the progeny of any word that ends with you, the word av, the suffix av is put. So, for example, the children or the progeny of Danu are Danav, the progeny of Yadu are Yadav, Raghu is Raghav, so Manu are Manav, and we call ourselves Manav, or in other words, Homo sapiens. So the cradle of human civilization, if we call ourselves humans, is Ayodhya according to Hindu scriptures, as Ayodhya was established right after the deluge by none other than Manu, who is the ruler of all humans because he's the father of all humans. And this is the basic importance of Ayodhya that has been lost in the dust of time. And it was my endeavor to bring these basic, most essential facts to Hindus, and so that they know why is Ayodhya important for Hindus and why they should speak about this, because this is not only important for Hindus, this is also important for people all over the world. That we are, let's face it, sorry, let's face it, we are the most ancient religion in the world, we are the most ancient race in the world, and the most ancient practicing dharma, if you don't want to call yourself a religion, the most ancient practicing civilization that has survived. There is almost nobody more antique than us, and who is still living and is not in a museum. And we have claimed that Manu, the progenitor of human species, established Ayodhya as his Puri or capital. And this fact should be known to the world. This fact should be known to everybody, because everybody else is new. And if Hindus don't know this, then who will?
Yeah, because even Hindus have begun to believe in Noah's Ark, which happened many, many centuries later. And that's what is the power of your research that you have done here, is that you have also brought about a very interesting analysis of Nagar, Nagri, and Puri, Puram. You have also said that how Meerut, Bareilly, these have the same name for city and district, but Ayodhya was different, just as Puri, Nagar, and there is a very interesting Nagpur, Kanpur, Jaunpur. You mentioned these things in your book, and Itanagar, Srinagar, and Tata Nagar and Jamnagar. Explain to the ordinary person who is not aware of this, how does this entire metamorphosis of the names happen? But you talked about Manus as a first human. I don't want to dilute that. That's a very important conversation, because as you rightly said, we all know, we as humans, we all know the specific date and time when a specific religion was established. Prior to that, we were all Sanatanis. It was our belief system. And that's what is important for us to be proud of, not be apologetic about. And that sense of pride, which, as you rightly said, my heart itself swelled while reading the book, because I know so much more about, now I'm more convinced about arguing about Ayodhya. It's not about Ram was born in that 6 feet of space. It's more than that. It is the cradle of our civilization. And that it is even more important to have. So tell us more about the entire description of what you found in your research, that how towns were named and how cities were named. What is Nagar? What is Puri? What is Puram? Beautifully done. Share more with us.
Okay, so
And don't forget the Manu part of it. I'm very excited about that because it establishes us as the progenitor of everything that happened to the world around us.
Manu is, sometimes we undervalue Manu in Hindu, dharma, because we've got so many brilliant avatars who have come after that. But, in the Gita itself, and why I'm saying, and why I put emphasis on Manu, because he's the first man, and he is the one who has given us all the knowledge that we have today, including the knowledge of Gita, including the knowledge of yoga. And this is reiterated. His importance is, so I'll first talk about Manu and then I'll move on to Nagar and Puri.
Yes.
So his importance is reiterated in the Gita itself, where Bhagwan says, Bhagwan Shri Krishna says, Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivaswan manave praha manur ikshvake bravit. So this actually, this actually means that, Vivaswan, Manu, and Ikshvaku had received the knowledge of yoga by disciplic succession. And this information is passed, by the master to the teacher, master to the student. And this is something that Sri Krishna has spoken about in the 4th chapter in Gyan Yoga. And why I'm saying this is because this is where, you see, what is Hinduism famous for? What yoga and Gita is something that we all hold close to us, right? Yoga, Gita, because yoga is the only thing that separates, dharma from, let's say, a religion. And, and yoga, and, the idea of being one with God, and that knowledge of being one with God, that knowledge of yoga is given, to Vivaswan, and Vivaswan, who is the father of Manu, and Vivaswan is none other than our own sun god. He then gives it to Ikshvaku. And so who's Ikshvaku? So from, so I'll just read this here again. Sri Krishna clearly mentions that he taught the eternal science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan. Vivaswan passed this knowledge to Manu, who in turn did the same to Ikshvaku. Who is Ikshvaku? So the scion of Ikshvaku is Lord Ram. The scion, and by scion, I mean the Tara. The Tara means the star, the pride. The pride of Ikshvakus is Lord Ram. He's the inheritor of the kingdom, the crown, the crown of Manu, and also the knowledge that has been passed by Bhagwan himself. So this is the importance of Manu, and this is the importance of the lineage that was in Ayodhya that we follow. Now coming to Ayodhya, the Nagar and the Pur. Now we all hear, everybody talking about, Nagpur, Kanpur, Itanagar, Srinagar, and we never understand what's the difference between a Pur and a Nagar. And so this is a problem that I encountered even in my research, that sometimes Valmiki ji would use Puri, and sometimes Valmiki ji would use Nagri, and he would say Nagri, Puri. And I just wouldn't understand what was going on. And then I asked my teacher, I said, why is there this whole thing, Nagar and Pur is happening? So he told me that Puri was where the capital district is. And what do we mean by the capital district? Puri is where the king, his men, his important ministers, the senior army officials, and the important people and the diplomats stay in a country. In a country. And a Nagar is a district. So for example, in India today, if there was actually truly a Puri, it would be in Delhi. And that would technically be Chanakya Puri. And so people who actually devised Chanakya Puri must have been very smart because they knew the difference. And then the district would be the district of Delhi. A district is bigger and encompasses more. There can be various districts in a country, but then the Puri is always one. So in the whole of the coastal kingdom, there were many districts, but there was only one Puri. And that Puri was in Ayodhya, and it was called Ayodhya Puri itself. So the names were the same. Whereas in other places, let's say in Delhi, it is not similar. So Delhi, let's say if it's a district, doesn't have the same name. I mean, the Puri of Delhi is not the same. It's called Chanakya Puri. It's not the same. So I have explained the meaning because, these are basic things that most Hindus should know, and, they don't. And, that's okay if they don't. That's why people like me come out with researches like that I have
No,
done.
no. It is very fascinating. More so, all the more reason is that you are a wonderful, fine young lady. And for you to do a research like this, it must inspire other young people to know more about ourselves, because our history, unfortunately, is written by others. And I don't think Irfan Habib or Romila Thapar are
They
any,
don't do justice.
they don't do justice to our history. And I objected to that when I was growing up. I refused to read their part of the history. It is important for us because our history has been written by others. So much so that to the extent that, as you rightly said, that Hindus gave up. Like for example, people say, what is there in a name? नाम बदलने से कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. So I just tell them, your name is your most important sound in your world, in your life. If somebody calls your name out correctly, it sounds very pleasant. Your name is your identity. That's your entire being. So if your name is changed by somebody because they could not pronounce it correctly, doesn't mean a thing, because you remain as you are. But if you were to change your name, you suffer. If that was the case, I tweeted a cartoon the other day in which it said that somebody said, "What is there in a name?" And then somebody said, "Yeah, you should have told this to Babur for as many 100 years, thousands of years ago. Why did he change the name?" So I'm very happy to inform the viewers, if you do not know, that on November 6, 2018, UP cabinet approved renaming of Faizabad as Ayodhya. That is another significant thing in view of what you are saying. So the point which is important is that how you have created the interest by your own curiosity and your desire to learn more about our own self. Your thoughts?
So I totally agree with you. And, to everybody who says what is in a name, I have a request for them. And my request is, please change your name to whatever it may be to donkey.
No,
Or if
donkey
you
is a,
want monkey.
no, donkey is a very useful animal. It carries all the load of the entire universe, which we wouldn't have been carrying.
Okay, so let's
I
say
did
a
not.
okay, so here you see these are things, these are like trite.
Yeah.
This is like this is very trite, so this kind of illogical something that people give is like, let me rename you and let me call you with what I think it is, and let me call you a very useful animal's name.
No, I'll give you my own example. I'll give you my own example. When I came to California, I was in the US. So my last name is JHA. In Spanish, J is silent. So I remember very crystal clear in Newport Beach
Yeah.
Mall, they were saying, yeah, so they announced for my ticket for food as Mr. Yeah, and I didn't recognize that. So 15 minutes later, I went and asked them, hey, where is my request? And they said, oh, we called you 15 minutes ago. I said, who did you call? They said, Mr. Yeah. I said, no, in my case, J is vocal and it stays. So please call me Ja. I have been training people, teaching people that I'm not going to change my name because Vibhuti is difficult to pronounce. Hey, Arnold Schwarzenegger did not change his name. Why should I? And my name is my own
Exactly.
identity. My name is, and मैंने Americans को सिखाया because I work with American companies in India and here. So मैंने उनको सिखाया कि तभी कोई चीज होती है. So now I have no longer Vibhuti. I'm definitely called by all my American friends as Vibhuti, except South Indians call me Vibhuti, which is, I let them do it. But there is another thing
So
which is very important.
yes.
I'm very excited about this book of yours.
And I'll tell you something. In ancient times, this has been researched and proven now, and I'm forgetting the name of the book, but there was a research done on how your name impacts you. And this, I think, was the first chapter of this book. I'm sorry, I've read hundreds of books, so I keep forgetting, but I'll tell you, your name has a massive impact on you and
Yeah.
who you are. And also it almost describes what you will be in the future. And I'll give you an example. People with the name Green, this was a Western a research, maybe American or British, I'm not very sure about it. And they found out that people with the surname that had to do with plants, greenery, or something, related to that, ended up becoming horticulturists, agriculturists, or researchers in that sphere. I don't remember, so don't like quote me on this, but I'll try and figure out. I don't remember the name, but I remember that there was actually a research that said that your name plays a huge important role. And that is why in Hinduism, whenever we have namkaran, so we have names that can tell you about the person and the lineage of that person. It is very important because who you are will determine your future.
That's
And
right.
Ayodhya, the name of Ayodhya was also like that.
That's brilliant. That's
That
brilliant.
which cannot be conquered.
That
That
which
which cannot
cannot be
be.
conquered.
Yes.
Wow. That's very, that's why all the security and how the entire moats structures were put. Two things that I want to talk about, we can talk about for hours on this subject matter, but two things I want you to tell us more about. We always thought there was only one plane called Pushpak, right? We only thought about there was one plane, but I learned from your book that there were five kinds of Vimans. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so the Viman is covered in the portion relating to the shapes and structure of residences, about the designer layouts. Now, according to the information, according to my research, there were five types of Viman, which were the original Vimans. Original Vimans. There were, of course, mutations of those original Vimans. And this is written in Samaranga Sutradhar. Now, anybody who's into Vimans and into aliens and spacecrafts would find this very fascinating. So this is because all the shapes and structures of Ayodhya are in, are like Viman shape. But which is that Viman shape? So there is the Samaranga Sutradhar. It's on Vastu. It's related to Vastu Shastra. And it was written by Raja Bhoj, who was a very, very famous Raja who loved mechanics. He was, an amazing person. But I read some of the things that he had written. I was astounded. I was really astounded. And of course, because in the book, I have to keep a limited number of pages, so I couldn't expound on that. So the first prime Vimans that were created by Brahma, and they were created specifically for interstellar travel, to traverse, yes, to traverse darkness. So understand, this is to traverse darkness. And what is darkness? Darkness is space, because in space there is nothing. It's in Sanskrit and Hindi, the word for that is Akash. Akash. So they were, because whenever you have to do interstellar travel, you have to go through Akash or space, which is there, and not everywhere. So sun is here in our solar system, but if you go beyond the solar system, you'll find darkness. And so it was made to traverse darkness. And those five Vimans were Raja, which was for Brahma himself, Kailash for Shiv, Pushpak for Kuber, Manik for Varun, Trivishtup for Vishnu. And I've written the shloks as well. So if anybody sees my books, the everything that I have written the Sanskrit Slope, and they are free to go and cross check whether the shlok exists or not.
No, you are talking about the intergalactic travel,
Yes,
and the instrument existed
yes,
then.
yes,
This is the important part for us to remember about why Ayodhya is important, because all of it was happening there.
yes,
This is the
yes.
important part of our. The other part which I also wanted to, talk to you about is, this does today's Ayodhya, the way the town is today. You have visited that place many times. Do you see the historical evidences that you are talking about visible, or has it been
So
removed?
okay, so the Ayodhya that we have today, as much as Ayodhya was named Ayodhya, but our previous generations did not preserve it as much as we'd like, and we had lost Ayodhya. And there are numerous versions to whom we lost Ayodhya. Patanjali, I believe, says we lost it to the Yavans, which are the Greeks. So we've lost the original Ayodhya. The Ayodhya that we have was found by Vikramaditya, the Ayodhya. So this is according to the descriptions given in the Ramayana as well as the Purans. So they then found the city, because the city was totally destroyed, because the Hindus did not pay attention to the strategic, whenever you make something more spiritual than it is, and you don't pay attention to the military and strategy, you will face these problems. And again, I try and tell people that Ayodhya was a living city, a living civilization that was lost, and it has very little. A lot of people say the word Ayodhya is a spiritual word, and I say no, it's not a spiritual word. It was a very strategically planned and defined city so that it could protect itself from enemies.
Mm.
And that protection, I have enumerated the kind of protection and layout it had for everybody to understand. And so the Ayodhya that we have is slightly different from what it used to be in the past. And but having said that, I'm very proud to say that the Vastukars of India, the temple makers of India, have actually followed that tradition to the T. So if you actually go and take a look at the triangular shape of all the temples, you will know that the inspiration behind the triangular shape is the word Viman. So every time you see a temple which is, like this pointed, and then, it has this sort of a, base, let's say a small base, and then it points on top, that is a very typical Viman shape. And I have given the shape of these
Yes, I've
Vimans.
seen that. I've seen you have given the examples of that. That
So take
how
a look at, yes, take a look at this Viman. And let me,
that shape itself is a lot of space shuttles. Look,
exactly,
it look like that. Look like that. So there is a,
exactly.
you know.
And then you take a look at this.
Yeah.
This is a very typical architecture of temple that is followed even today. And so these are mostly South Indian temples, and they have preserved it very well. And this is something that I have seen in temples all across. Most of the Ram temples that have followed the description very well will follow that. And not only that, the gold, for example, gold, we underestimate the value of gold in our country. And I read in my research, of course I haven't written it in the book because everything couldn't go in the book. Apparently it turns out that gold originally doesn't belong to earth. Let's say diamonds belong to earth, but gold doesn't. So when earth was formed, gold got embedded in earth, and that's what we are taking out. And so gold is something that is available in space, not in space, maybe in other planets. And the Vimans of gods was decorated with gold on top. And Hindu temples till date decorate the Vimans with gold. And we have temples like the Suvarn Mandir, which is a golden temple. And then we have, I've given the name of another temple, which is the Lakshmi temple. And this is also decorated with gold. And this is in absolute accordance to what has been written in our scriptures. And I'm very, very, I'm very proud to say that, whoever built these temples, even today, if they're building it. So this is a temple that I have shown, which is made up of gold, totally of gold. We are following that tradition, and I'm very proud. And this is when I say, yes, the homes of Ayodhya are still visible, and our temples are exactly that. So this is a very typical home or palace of Ayodhya.
Look, you have instilled enormous pride in our heritage and the truth of our existence. And I'm very proud of you to get to know you, and I'm very grateful that you came on the show today to share with people what they don't know, what they are missing out on, and the significant amount of principles that govern our life. Why the name Ayodhya? That can't be conquered, but it did get lost. There
Because
is,
we must have forgotten.
we forgot. So that's a point which is important for us to know. So viewers, let's thank Neena ji for being on the show, sharing about her research, which is now out in the book form. If you wanted to know about Ayodhya, we have to constantly interact with our communities in America and rest of the world, because many of them don't know the truth about us Hindus. We ourselves don't know. It's important for us to be able to argue, to able to educate, to be able to enunciate our thoughts. We have to know our story. If we don't know our story, we can't tell. Today, I feel empowered even more. Not that I wasn't before, and I've been very vocal about it. Today, I'm even more empowered to talk about the significance of Ayodhya for Hindus. Ram was a king. Ram Bhagwan was a king, and I respect that, Maryada Purushottam Ram. But for my respect for Ramji and my respect for Ayodhya as a city has quadrupled, if not more. So with these words of gratitude, and thank you very much for coming on the show, I would urge you all to read. Prepare yourself. You will have more to tell our senators that, hey, the aliens are not untrue. We had the planes and our people did travel. So with these words, have a great weekend, have a great week ahead, and see you next week. Neena ji, have a wonderful time, and I will look forward to meeting up with you wherever you are, whenever the travels become easier. Thank you very much for being on the show today.